Welcome back to Tremendous's RimWorld Chronicles. We pick up the story right after Andersmith and Blackshade were crushed to death by separate cave-ins. Yes, both deaths were avoidable, but none of us understood exactly how cave-ins worked, and two valued colonists paid the ultimate price. Let's get back to the story and see how the colony responds to these horrible events. The following week was spent in preparing for the funeral for Blackshade and Andersmith. The loss of two members of the colony, especially two founding members, hit everyone very hard. Tremendous and Vortex fashioned slate coffins for their brothers, while Dai, Tom, and Marjo built a marble mausoleum to enter their fallen friends in. It was the most respectful way they could think to honor their loved ones. No one felt the loss for Andersmith and Blackshade more than Tremendous. Andersmith had directly saved his life, and Blackshade had been instrumental in the technological advances they'd made since arriving here. As the de facto leader of the colony, he felt directly responsible for their deaths and had a difficult time coming to terms with the loss. Although morale was low, some positive did manifest from the loss of their friends. Tremendous and Marjo bonded through their grief and found reasons to spend time together. Eventually, Tremendous commented on how beautiful their technology was and how it paled in contrast to her own, which resulted in their romantic relationship starting. As the party healed and began to flourish once more, so did Tremendous's and Marjo's relationship. This resulted in Tremendous proposing marriage, to which Marjo excitedly agreed. Morale skyrocketed as the colonists prepared for the big day. The recreation area was given a massive overhaul, with fine sandstone tiles being added to the floor and a television being added to the room. Musical instruments were built for the ceremony, and Tom found an old religious tome to use to conduct the ceremony. Even Dai contributed by volunteering to be a ring bearer. He took his role seriously by practicing his duties, silently marching around the compound while presenting a rough-hewn stone ring. Things were starting to look up for the colony once again, which should have been an indication that something horrific was about to befall them all. When the big day finally arrived, no one was more excited than Tremendous and Marjo. The wedding was to take place outdoors near the remains of an old cathedral, with the reception planned to take place in the kitchen and renovated recreation room. It was a beautiful sunny day without a cloud in the sky. It was storybook perfect. As the ceremony began, and the colonists gathered to celebrate the love of Tremendous and Marjo, the other shoe finally dropped. Without warning, two groups of raiders from different factions attacked. There were 7 raiders attacking from the east side of their territory, and 5 attacking from the west. The colonists were caught completely off guard and ill-prepared. Everything had been so peaceful for so long, they allowed themselves to become complacent. Cursing the raiders, the colonists ran to engage the larger group, seeing them as the greater threat. Tremendous, fueled by rage, killed 2 of the raiders single-handedly, before being dropped by a fusillade of gunfire from the remaining 5. Marjo and Tom's concentrated fire downed 2 more raiders, but not before one of them shot poor Dai in the chest, dropping the boy to the ground as he crumpled in pain and blood loss. Vortex rushed to Tremendous's aid and began performing first aid before his wounds could overwhelm his system, and that's when things got even worse. The mechanoids the late Blackshade had fashioned had been dormant since his passing. For some unknown reason, the mechanoids went berserk and attacked the closest living subject near them. That unfortunate individual was Vortex. Vortex tried to fight off the robots, but they were too much for him. As he was pummeled by the machines, one took hold of his left arm and tore it off. Vortex and passed out on the spot, falling on top of Tremendous's still form. Marjo and Tom fired their weapons at the mechanoids that had once been valued allies. Their volley of rounds had the intended effect, cutting down two of the machines and critically damaging the others. Unfortunately, their diverted attention gave the other raiders the time they needed to sneak up behind them. These raiders didn't come with guns and knives, they came with explosives and fire. Before Marjo or Tom knew what was happening, a grenade landed between them, followed up by a Molotov cocktail that set their escape path ablaze. Not that they were going to have a chance to use it. The grenade detonated with a thunderous explosion. Tom died before the smoke cleared. Marjo was less fortunate. She was rendered unconscious by the blast and captured by the raiders. What her fate was, we will never know. Vortex and Dai bled out and perished before the raiders left with their prize, and Tremendous fell into an emergency death rest in order to preserve his life. With no one left to rescue him, the sun and elements eventually eroded him away, leaving nothing but his bones and the remains of their once thriving colony as proof of their existence. Tremendous' story was over. Its ending sad, but so very real.
Well, just like most RimWorld playthroughs, this one ended in failure and a total party wipe. This run was relatively early in my RimWorld career, so I made a lot of mistakes, bad calls, and ignorant decisions. Failure was kind of a foregone conclusion, but man, I had a ton of fun. I really enjoyed the colonists in this run. Tremendous was the first time my main character was a vampire. The durability and quick healing was incredibly forgiving, and I felt it gave me a huge advantage in combat. It also made taking chances via exploration more manageable. For example, had Tremendous been any other xenotype, his interaction with the Scorcher would have been his last. That was just a hazard of exploration. But with no time to react or mitigate the burning damage, by the time Andersmith had made it to his location, he would have been long dead. I really liked that endurance in my main character. The raiders were incredible too. The Neanderthal that originally attacked and almost took down Orlov and Andersmith was hilarious. The pigmen were intense, and the dog people were a solid fight. The two groups of raiders at the end that killed my colony walked over my colonists like they were made of paper. It taught me a lot about slacking on defenses. The other interactions were incredible too. Being saved by Tuck, the random starting pet of all things, really showed me how valuable taming aggressive animals could be. Also, being raided by 3 man-hunting panda bears will be a memory I'll never forget. All in all, this was an outstanding playthrough, and I'm excited to get to my next one. I hope you enjoyed this volume of Tremendous's RimWorld Chronicles. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, please feel free to put them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, thanks.